Chapter 10 Prepositions. Prepositions are single words such as at, from, in, of, and on, or phrases such as in front of, next to, and out of. We can use prepositions with noun phrases when we describe people, a group of Italian students, and things, the train from London, or when we provide additional information about an action or situation, such as the time or place. Their train arrived at 4:30 in the afternoon. I told them that if I'm not on the platform, they should just walk out of the station and wait in front of the newsstand next to the main entrance, and I'll meet them there. 1. Read through this report on working students and find another 4 phrases with prepositions describing time. Contrary to popular belief, students do work. According to one National Union of Students survey, 4 out of 10 students attending universities in the UK had a job during term time. With more tuition fees and other additional costs, it seems reasonable to assume that this figure is increasing. With more tuition fees and other additional costs, it seems reasonable to assume that this figure is increasing. The students we talked to confirmed that this is the case. For many of the students we interviewed, the idea of a part-time job on top of their full-time studies is no longer an option, but a necessity. At the same time, some of them said the universities offer little help regarding employment or simply advise students against having a job. They expect students to be working on their degrees and nothing else. One medical student reported, when I told my director of studies that I had a job in the Christmas break, he frowned. He clearly didn't think it was a good idea. Most students are employed in part-time or temporary jobs, and as a result of this, have no job security and don't qualify for sick leave or holiday pay. Many students are hired in place of regular workers, but are generally paid less than them. Some students don't actually work for pay, but no jobs in exchange for lower rent and or meals. These are usually caretaker jobs. With the exception of those able to find work inside their universities and colleges, the majority of students have jobs at night or during the weekend. One student reported that apart from working, her weekends were spent sleeping. I work as a security guard until 3 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights, so I end up sleeping all day Saturday and Sunday. Another student said she works 22 hours a week. Another student said she works 22 hours a week in addition to her 20 weekly hours of lectures. I wouldn't say it has had any effect academically, but it means that I can go out much. According to the NUS employment study, more than 10% of students had missed the lectures or failed to submit work. According to the NUS employment study, more than 10% of students had missed lectures or failed to submit work because of job commitment. For those with term-time jobs, 30% had missed the lecture, while 20% had not handed in assignments. It seems almost inevitable that due to financial pressures, the university experience will change. Increased costs in education, together with the pressures to succeed in a competitive world, are defining the circumstances in which today's students struggle to complete their degrees. Increased cost in education, together with pressures to succeed in a competitive world, are defining the circumstances in which today's students struggle to complete their degrees. Student life really does involve a lot more work these days. 2. Complete this summary with the appropriate prepositions from the report. Although universities often advise them against having a job, at least 4 out of 10 students now work during term time. Some students do jobs in exchange for lower rent, but most of them work in part-time jobs for less pay than regular workers, and usually at night or during the weekend. Students with term-time jobs are a lot more likely to miss lectures and assignments, according to a National Union of Students study. Page number 125. Propositions and propositional phrases. Simple propositions. Simple propositions are single words, such as at, in, of, to, and with, which have a wide range of possible meanings. 1. There are others, such as behind, during, and fast, which have a more limited range of meanings. 2. There are also a few words derived from present participles, such as following and including, which can be used as simple propositions. 3. 1. At East, I went with a friend of mine to a special ceremony in Westminster Abbey. Others include as, by, for, from, of, on. 2. During the ceremony, we had to sit behind a huge pillar. We couldn't see anything past it. During the ceremony, we had to sit behind a huge pillar. We couldn't see anything past it. Others include above, across, against, before, between, inside, over, through, until, without. 3. Following the ceremony, we went to lunch. Including lunch, the whole trip took 3 hours. Others include considering, excluding, facing, regarding. Complex propositions. Complex propositions are phrases which consist of 2 words such as next to and instead of, for, or more than 2 words such as well as, and in front of. 5. They all end with a simple proposition. 4. Come and sit next to me. Could I have coffee instead of tea? Not coffee instead tea, but coffee instead of tea. Could I have coffee instead of tea? Others include according to, apart from, because of, due to, out of, together with. 5. There were 2 or 3 men as well as a group of girls in front of me waiting to buy tickets. Others include as a result of, in addition to, in place of, on top of, with regard to. Prepositional phrases. Prepositional phrases consist of prepositions plus objects. Propositional phrases consist of prepositions plus objects. The objects are noun phrases 6 and can include object pronouns 7 and gerunds 8. 6. The boy cut the rope with a penknife. I gave the keys to the woman who works in your office. 7. Apart from us, it was empty. Let's keep this between you and me. Not between you and I, but between you and me. Let's keep this between you and me. 8. Some people left without saying. Besides swimming, I also like hockey and basketball. We normally put a proposition immediately before each object. We normally put a proposition immediately before each object. But in questions 9 and relative clauses 10, we often put the proposition at the end. In formal usage, the proposition is sometimes put at the beginning of the question or before the relative pronoun. 11. 9. He cut with something. He cut it with something. He cut it with something. What did he cut it with? 10. Jan is the woman. I gave the keys to her. Jan is the woman that I gave the keys to. Jan is the woman who I gave the keys to. Jan is the woman who I gave the keys to. 11. With what did he cut it? Jan is the woman to whom I gave the keys. Not to who, but to whom. Jan is the woman to whom I gave the keys. Some propositions are only used at the beginning, not the end, of questions and relative clauses. 12. After which war was the Treaty of Versailles signed? After which war was the Treaty of Versailles signed? Not which war was it signed after, but after which war was it signed? Others include above, because of, before, below, besides, during. 3. Using information from the report on page 124, complete these sentences and decide how each proposition is being used. A. With an object pronoun. B. With a gerund. C. At the beginning of a relative clause. D. At the end of a relative clause. The student we talked to confirmed that this is correct. Proposition 2 at the end of a relative clause. 2. Students need jobs, but some of them said universities don't help with employment. Students need jobs, but some of them said universities don't help with employment. Proposition of with an object pronoun. 3. One student said that apart from working, she spent her weekends sleeping. Proposition apart from with a gerund. 4. Higher costs are defining the circumstances in which today's students struggle to finish their degrees. Proposition in at the beginning of a relative clause. Higher costs are defining the circumstances in which today's students struggle to finish their degrees. Proposition in at the beginning of a relative clause. Contrary to popular belief, students do work. According to one National Union of Students survey, 4 out of 10 students attending universities in the UK had a job during term time. With more tuition fees and other additional costs, it seems reasonable to assume that this figure is increasing. The students we talked to confirmed that this is the case. For many of the students we interviewed, the idea of a part-time job on top of their full-time studies is no longer an option, but a necessity. At the same time, some of them said universities offer little help regarding employment or simply advise students against having a job. They expect students to be working on their degrees and nothing else. One medical student reported, "When I told my director of studies that I had a job in the Christmas break, he frowned. He clearly didn't think it was a good idea." Most students are employed in part-time or temporary jobs, and as a result of this, have no job security and don't qualify for sick leave or holiday pay. Many students are hired in place of regular workers. but are generally paid less than them. Some students don't actually work for pay, but do jobs in exchange for lower rent and or meals. These are usually caretaker jobs. With the exception of those able to find work inside their universities and colleges, the majority of students have jobs at night or during the weekend. One student reported that apart from working, her weekends were spent nothing. Apart from working, her weekends were spent sleeping. I work as a security guard until 3 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights, so I end up sleeping all day Saturday and Sunday. Another student said she works 22 hours a week in addition to her 20 weekly hours of lectures. I wouldn't say it has had any effect academically, but it means that I can't go out much. I wouldn't say it has had any effect academically, but it means that I can't go out much. I wouldn't say it has had any effect academically, but it means that I can't go out much. According to the NUS employment study, more than 10% of students had missed the lectures or failed to submit work because of job commitment. For those with term-time jobs, 30% had missed lectures, while 20% had not handed in assignments. It seemed almost inevitable that due to financial pressures, the university experience will change. Increased costs in education, together with the pressures to succeed in a competitive world, are defining the circumstances in which today's students struggle to complete their degrees. Student life really does involve a lot more work these days. Student life really does involve a lot more work these days. Page number 126. Propositions of time. At, in, on, etc. We use at with an exact point in time. We use at with an exact point in time. 1. The morning session begins at 8:30 and ends at noon. At that time, I was still a student. We also use at before names of meal times or general words for holidays. 2. And when you talk about a person's age as a point in time. 3. 2. I will see you at breakfast. What does your family do at Christmas? What does your family do at Christmas? 3. Both my parents left school at 16. Both my parents left school at 16. At your age, I was already married and had a baby. We use in with a period of time. 4. We usually listen to music in the evening. We usually listen to music in the evening. They did all the repairs in one day. They did all the repairs in one day. They did all the repairs in one day. Note that in the night, during a specific night, is different from at night, during any night. We also use in before the names of months, seasons, or years. 5. And before phrases identifying centuries and historical periods. 6. 5. Summertime begins in March. It's very dry here in summer. Dickens died in 1870. Dickens died in 1870. 6. The house was built in the 19th century. The house was built in the 19th century. Jazz first became popular in the 1920s. Jazz first became popular in the 1920s. We can also use in for a period of time before something happens or is completed. 7. I'll be back in an hour. They said they'd finish the work in 2 or 3 days. We use on with a specific day or part of a specific day and date. We use on with a specific day or part of a specific day and date. 8. I will see you on Sunday. The meeting is on Monday morning. The exam is on May 30th. The exam is on May 30th. In informal usage, especially in American English, on is often left out. I will see you Sunday. We also use on with special days or occasions. 9. I will be there on your birthday. What do you do on Christmas Day? Not on Christmas, but at Christmas or on Christmas Day. We don't usually use at, in, or on before time expressions beginning with each, every, last, next. 10. We had meetings every day last week. I'm leaving next Friday. Not on next Friday, but next Friday. I'm leaving next Friday. We can use from and to for starting and end points in time. 11. We can use from and to for starting and end points in time. 11. We can also use fast, later than, with a point in time. 12. 11. The class meets from 2:30 to 4:30. We lived in Athens from 1998 to 2002. 12. What time is it? It's past 8 o'clock. Actually, it's already 20 past 8. 4. Complete each sentence with one pair of words or phrases plus at, in, or on where necessary. Christmas Day. The fest. Her birthday. Next Saturday. 6. The morning. 4 o'clock. Friday afternoon. Midnight. New Year's Eve. 65. 2005. The 4th of July. 1776. Night. Winter. September. Every year. Example. We all held hands and sang together at midnight on New Year's Eve. 1. I hated the Example. We all held hands and sang together at midnight on New Year's Eve. 1. I hated the early shift at the factory because I had to start work at 6 in the morning. I hated the early shift at the factory because I had to start work at 6 in the morning. 2. We are going to have a big party for Rachel on her birthday next Saturday. We are going to have a big party for Rachel on her birthday next Saturday. 3. They harvest the grapes in September every year. They harvest the grapes in September every year. 4. Because it was so cold in the bedroom, I often didn't sleep very well at night in winter. Because it was so cold in the bedroom, I often didn't sleep very well at night in winter. 5. It wasn't as common for people to get a holiday from work on Christmas Day in the past. 6. I can leave work early because I have a meeting at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. I can't leave work early because I have a meeting at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. 7. Although he didn't think of himself as old, Frank Jones had to retire at 65 in 2005. 8. The American Declaration of Independence was signed on the 4th of July in 1776. Page number 127. Prepositions of time. Prepositions of time. Page number 127. Prepositions of time. Prepositions of time. During, for, since, etc. During, for, since. We can use during or in when something happened at some point within a specific period of time. 1. We usually use during, not in, when we are talking about the whole period of time. 2. 1. Will be on holiday during or in July. The old road is sometimes closed during or in winter. 2. We need fewer workers during long weekends. There are no classes during the whole of May. There are no classes during the whole of May. We can use during, not for, to say when something happens, and for, not during, to say how long something lasts. We can use during, not for, to say when something happens, and for, not during, to say how long something lasts. 3. During April, I'm hoping to go to New York for a few days. During April, I'm hoping to go to New York for a few days. During April, I'm hoping to go to New York for a few days. Not during a few days, but for a few days. I'm hoping to go to New York for a few days. When we are talking about a period of time up to the present, we can use for to say how long it has been, and since to say when it started. 5. 4. We've been waiting for hours. I've been a student here for 2 years. Not since 2 years, but for 2 years. I've been a student here for 2 years. 5. We've been waiting since 8 o'clock. We've been waiting since 8 o'clock. I've been a student here since 2004. We usually use a perfect tense, not the present simple with since. Not I'm here since 2004, but I've been here since 2004. I've been here since 2004. Before, by, until. We usually use before very generally for something happening earlier than a certain time. 6. We usually use before very generally for something happening earlier than a certain time. 6. We use by more precisely when we mean at, on, or before a specific time. 7. We use until for a period of time up to a specific point in time. 8. We can use not until when we mean not earlier than. 9. 6. Jill. Did not say he would be here before 6, at some time earlier than 6. 7. Beb. I think he said he hoped to be here by 6. I think he said he hoped to be here by 6, at or before, but not later than 6. 8. Jill. I guess we should wait for him until 6:15. I guess we should wait for him until 6:15. During the period up to 6:15. 9. Beth. I bet he won't get here until 6:30. Not earlier than 6:30. I bet he won't get here until 6:30. Not earlier than 6:30. In informal usage, till is sometimes used instead of until. He won't get here till 6:30. He won't get here till 6:30. We don't usually use two prepositions together, but the combinations since before, from a point in time earlier than, and until after up to a point in time later than are sometimes used. We don't usually use two prepositions together, but the combinations since before, from a point in time earlier than, and until after up to a point in time later than are sometimes used. 10. They've lived here since before the war. Don't say Happy New Year until after midnight. Don't say Happy New Year until after midnight. 5. Using a dictionary if necessary, complete these definitions with the nouns and prepositions. Using a dictionary if necessary, complete these definitions with the nouns and prepositions. Curfew, deadline, expiry date, after, at, by, during, in, 2 times, until. Expiry date expiry date, the end of a period of time during which something can be used. Deadline, a point in time by which something must be done or completed. Curfew, a law prohibiting people from going outside after a particular time at night until a particular time in the morning. 6. Correct the mistakes in these sentences. 1. I've been waiting for an hour to have a minute with the boss before his next meeting. I've been waiting for an hour to have a minute with the boss before his next meeting. 2. My sister has worked as a teacher in Athens since before 2003. 3. Your application form must be received in this office by 9 a.m. on the 1st of March. Your application form must be received in this office by 9 a.m. on the 1st of March. 4. I have appointments every morning this week, but I can see you next Monday morning. I have appointments every morning this week, but I can see you next Monday morning. Page number 128. Prepositions of place. At, in, on. At, in, and on for location. When something is at a place, it is close to it, but not touching it. 1. When something is at a place, it is close to it, but not touching it. 1. We can also use at when we talk about a point on a scale or a journey. 2. 1. We'll meet you at the bus stop. I think I heard someone at the door. 2. Bake the pie in the oven at 170 degrees. I'm sure we stopped at York during our trip north. When something is in a place, it is inside it. 3. We can also use in when you talk about a place as a general area such as a region or a country. 4. 3. The money was in a box in a drawer in the desk in my office. What's in the envelope? What's in the envelope? 4. Lily is going to spend a week in Tuscany this summer. Is that in France or Italy? Lily is going to spend a week in Tuscany this summer. Is that in France or Italy? Note that we say, who is the small boy in the picture? Not on the picture, but in the picture. Who is the small boy in the picture? When something is on a place, it is in contact with the surface. 5. We can also use on when we talk about a place in relation to a line, such as a road or a river. 6. 5. I left the keys on the table. She reached over and put her hand on his. 6. You'll pass Stepford on the way to Birmingham. It's just a small town on the river Avon. Verbs and nouns with at, in, and on. After verbs such as shout and smile, we use at before an object that is the target of the action. After verbs such as shout and smile, we use at before an object that is the target of the action. After verbs such as shout and smile, we use at before an object that is the target of the action. 7. Why is that man shouting at us? Why is that man shouting at us? She smiled at me. Not she smiled at me, but she smiled at me. Others include bark, glance, laugh, look, scream, stare, swear, yell. After verbs such as believe and include, we use in before objects that describe ideas and things as if they were places. 8. I don't believe in life after death. The tip is included in the bill. Not it's included the bill, but it's included in the bill. Others include indulge, interfere, invest, join, meddle, result, specialize, wallow. After verbs such as comment and concentrate, we use on before an object. 9. We can't comment on the test results yet. I can't concentrate on my work. Not I can't concentrate my work, but I can't concentrate on my work. Others include depend, focus, insist, lecture, plan, rely, remark, report. After nouns such as ban and restriction, we use on before another noun. 10. Isn't there a ban on pesticides? They have restrictions on the amount of money you can send. Others include attack, concentrate, effect, emphasis, imposition, limit, perspective, sanction. 7. Choose an ending from A to D for each beginning from 1 to 4 and add at, in, or on. 1. There are restrictions on travel in some parts of the country. 2. John kept staring at the goldfish as he swam round in his small glass bowl. 3. They believe in negotiating quietly rather than shouting at each other. 4. He was concentrating on the task of counting the money in his wallet. 8. Add at, in, or on were necessary to these sentences. Example: craft shops in many small villages rely on tour buses to bring them customers. 1. The meeting focused on economic problems in developing countries in Southeast Asia. 2. You can either stand at the bar or sit at a table in most pubs in Britain. 3. You're depending on my brother to meet us at the exit door after the concert. 4. The children were laughing at something they had seen in a cartoon. Page number 129. Propositions of place: above, below, between, etc. Above and over. We use above and over to say that one thing is in a higher position than another. 1. There's a full moon above or over the mountain. He has a small scar above or over his left eye. We can use above, not over, when one thing is at a higher level or point on a scale than another. 2. We can use over, not above, when one thing covers another in some way. 3. More figuratively, above can be used with the sense of better than, and over with the sense of more than. 4. 2. It's always colder above the snow line. Her name is above mine on the waiting list. 3. There are thick clouds over most of Scotland. I had to wear a scarf over my head. 4. His work is above average. Are you over 21? Not are you above 21, but are you over 21? Below and under. We use below and under to say that one thing is in a lower position than another. 5. Their flat is below or under ours. I keep the bleach below or under the sink in the kitchen. We use below, not under, when one thing is at a lower level or point on a scale than another. 6. We use under, not below, when one thing is covered by another in some way. 7. More figuratively, under can be used with the sense of less than. 8. 6. Most of New Orleans is below sea level. I'm sure the temperature is below 0 tonight. 7. The puppy likes to hide under the sofa. Do you always wear a vest under your shirt? 8. If you are under 21, you can't get into the club. If you are under 21, you can't get into the club. The total cost of the trip was under 50 pounds. The total cost of the trip was under 50 pounds. We can use underneath to emphasize covered by. I keep my money underneath my mattress. Between and among. We can talk about the place between two or more separate people or things. 9. Or among more than two people or things together as a group. 10. 9. Find Luxembourg on the map. It's between Belgium, France, and Germany. 10. Find Luxembourg on the map. It's among the countries of Western Europe. More figuratively, between, not among, can be used to talk about how things are connected. 11. And among not between, can be used with the sense of included in. 12. 11. In the study, they investigated the relationship between education, diet, and health. 12. Among the advantages of private schools are small classes and more individual attention. 9. Using a dictionary if necessary, complete these sentences using an adjective or a noun plus one of the prepositions. Using a dictionary if necessary, complete these sentences using an adjective or a noun plus one of the prepositions. Overall, overflow, 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 overlap, overcut, overhead, overpopulation, above, below, over, among, between, under. 1. I'm wearing a woolen pullover and a jacket under this overcoat, but I still feel cold. 2. High birth rates combined with better health care for children are starting to create serious problems with overpopulation among some of the world's poorest nations. High birth rates combined with better health care for children are starting to create serious problems with overpopulation among some of the world's poorest nations. 3. There does seem to be quite an overlap between the subject areas of math and physics. There does seem to be quite an overlap between the subject areas of math and physics. 4. The work is really dirty, so you'd better wear overalls over your clean clothes. The work is really dirty, so you'd better wear overalls over your clean clothes. 5. The number of young children starting school this year is well above normal, and we don't have enough room for them all, so we are having to use temporary buildings for the overflow. The number of young children starting school this year is well above normal, and we don't have enough room for them all, so we are having to use temporary buildings for the overflow. 6. A number of people who live near or below those massive overhead power lines say that they have suffered health problems because of them. A number of people who live near or below those massive overhead power lines say that they have suffered health problems because of them. Page number 113. Propositions of movement and place. Page number 130. Propositions of movement and place. From, across, along, etc. From to, towards. We use from for the origin or starting point and to for the goal or end point of movement. 1. More figuratively, from and to can be used for the starting and end point of changes. 2. 1. We flew straight from London to San Francisco. I can walk from my flat to work. 2. He translated the book from Russian to English. He translated the book from Russian to English. It went from quite cool to very hot in an hour. We can use towards in the direction of to focus on the direction of movement. 3. More figuratively, towards can be used to talk about the direction of development or change. 4. More figuratively, towards can be used to talk about the direction of development or change. 4. 3. I suddenly saw a car coming towards me. If you get lost, try to walk towards the south. 4. The trend is towards much larger farms. This agreement is an important step towards peace. Note that toward is also used, especially in American English. It's a step toward peace. Into and onto. We can use into when we focus on movement to a place inside something. 5. And onto or onto for movement to a surface of some kind. 6. 5. We took a bus into the city center. We took a bus into the city center. The waiter poured some wine into each glass. 6. Let's move the small books onto the top shelf. Paint was dripping from his brush onto the floor. Paint was dripping from his brush onto the floor. Paint was dripping from his brush onto the floor. Across, over, through. You can use across, over, and through for movement from one side of something to the other. 7. The early explorers had to get across, over, or through the Rocky Mountains to reach the coast. We usually use across for movement to the other side of a surface or area. 8. Over for movement to the other side of something that is viewed as high or as a line. 9. And through for movement that enters and leaves something. 10. 8. We spent a month traveling across America. She pushed the note across the table to him. 9. The gate was locked, so I climbed over the wall. It was a good shot, but it went over the bar. 10. You have to go through the kitchen to get to the bathroom. The Thames flows through London. We can use across and over for phrase on the other side of. There's a cafe across or over the street. Along and fast. We can use along for movement in one direction or to describe the position of something which is somewhere in that direction. 11. We can use fast for movement beyond a specific point or to describe the position of something beyond a specific point. 12. 11. I like walking along country lanes. I like walking along country lines. I like walking along country lines. There's a cafe along the street. 12. We drove past Stratford, but didn't stop there. There's a cafe just past the church. There's a cafe just past the church. Off and out of. We can use off for movement away from a surface or to describe the position of something in relation to a surface. 13. We use out of for movement from the inside of something or to describe the position of something which is no longer inside. 14. 13. Could you take that box off the table? The platform was about 2 feet off the ground. The platform was about 2 feet off the ground. 14. I lifted the kitten out of the box. As soon as it was out of the box, it started crying. Note that we don't use out without of as a proposition. Not it was out the box, but it was out of the box. As soon as it was out of the box, it started crying. More figuratively, of can be used with the sense of not connected to. 15. And out of with the sense of no longer having. 16. 15. This part of your essay is completely off the main topic. Skye is an island off the west coast. 16. We are out of milk, so I have to go to the shop. A lot of people are out of work now. Page number 131. 10. Complete these directions with the following propositions. Across, along, from, out of, past, to, 2 times, towards. Tony, talking on the phone. Hi, Angie, it's me again. I'm sorry to bother you, but I am in the post office, and I can't remember how to get to the Red Lion from here. Angie, that's okay. The Red Lion is on King Street, so when you are out of the post office, you should turn right and walk towards the cathedral. The Red Lion is on King Street, so when you are out of the post office, you should turn right and walk towards the cathedral. Go across Post Street and turn left when you reach Baker Street. Go across Port Street and turn left when you reach Baker Street. Walk along Baker Street to King Street and turn right. The Red Lion will be on your right just past the library. 11. Using a dictionary if necessary add one pair of propositions to each sentence. Along, towards, out of, from, through, to. 1. When you go by a particular place, you go through that place on your way to another place. When you go by a particular place, you go through that place on your way to another place. 2. When you are going up or down a road, you are going along it towards one end of it. 3. When you are asked to wait outside the room, you have to be out of the room, but you mustn't move too far from it. When you are asked to wait outside the room, you have to be out of the room, but you mustn't move too far from it. 12. Add these propositions to the following paragraph from the beginning of a novel. Along, from, into, on, over, through, toward, 2 times. She stands up in the garden where she has been walking and looks into the distance. She has sensed a shift in the weather. There is another gust of wind, a bug of noise in the air, and the tall cypresses sway. There is another gust of wind, a bug of noise in the air, and the tall cypresses sway. She turns and moves uphill towards the house, climbing over a low wall, feeling the first drops of rain on her bare arms. She crosses the loggia and quickly enters the house. She crosses the loggia and quickly enters the house. In the kitchen, she doesn't forge, but goes through it and climbs the stairs, which are in darkness, and then continues along the long hall, at the end of which is a wedge of light from an open door. In the kitchen, she doesn't forge, but goes through it and climbs the stairs, which are in darkness, and then continues along the long hall, at the end of which is a wedge of light from an open door. She turns into the room, which is another garden, this one made up of trees and bowers painted over its walls and ceiling. The man lies on the bed, his body exposed to the breeze, and he turns his head slowly towards her as she enters. Page number 1. She stands up in the garden where she has been walking and looks into the distance. She has sensed a shift in the weather. There is another gust of wind, a bug of noise in the air, and the tall cypresses sway. There is another gust of wind, a bug of noise in the air, and the tall cypresses sway. She turns and moves uphill towards the house, climbing over a low wall, feeling the first drops of rain on her bare arms. She crosses the loggia and quickly enters the house. She crosses the loggia and quickly enters the house. In the kitchen, she doesn't forge, but goes through it and climbs the stairs, which are in darkness, and then continues along the long hall, at the end of which is a wedge of light from an open door. In the kitchen, she doesn't forge, but goes through it and climbs the stairs, which are in darkness, and then continues along the long hall, at the end of which is a wedge of light from an open door. She turns into the room, which is another garden, this one made up of trees and bowers painted over its walls and ceiling. The man lies on the bed, his body exposed to the breeze, and he turns his head slowly towards her as she enters. Page number 132. Prepositions used for connections of, with, by. Of and with. We use of and with when we talk about people and things being connected. We can put of between two noun phrases to show that the first belongs to or is part of the second. 1. We can put with between two noun phrases when the second is a particular feature of the first. 2. We can put with between two noun phrases when the second is a particular feature of the first. 2. 1. The roof of their house is bright red. The sleeves of this shirt are too long. 2. Theirs is the house with the bright red roof. I'm looking for a white shirt with short sleeves. We can use of to say how people are related. 3. And with to say that people or things are together. 4. 3. Is Briony the daughter of Alice Hodson? Yes, she's a good friend of mine. Is Briony the daughter of Alice Hodson? Yes, she's a good friend of mine. 4. I think Lee went shopping with her friends. Would you like some wine with your meal? We use of after some adjectives. 5. And with after others. 6. 5. Millie is afraid of dogs. The report was full of mistakes. Not it was full with mistakes, but it was full of mistakes. Are you aware of the risks involved? I was fond of my old car, but it had too many problems. 6. We are faced with a difficult choice. We are faced with a difficult choice. I wasn't familiar with the computer program. There are side effects associated with most medicines. There are side effects associated with most medicines. He wasn't satisfied with my work. With and by. We can use with plus a determiner and noun for the specific thing used to perform an action. 7. We usually use by plus a noun, no determiner, or gerund when you want to describe the action in a more general way. 8. 7. I paid with my credit card. The thief broke the lock with a knife. Not by a knife, but with a knife. The thief broke the lock with a knife. 8. I paid by credit card. He opened the door by breaking the lock. Not by break the lock, but by breaking the lock. He opened the door by breaking the lock. Other by phrases used with a general meaning include by air, by bus, by email, by phone. Other by phrases used with a general meaning include by air, by bus, by email, by phone. 13. Complete each sentence with one pair of words or phrases, not necessarily in this order, plus by, of, or with where necessary. A check, the yellow lampshade, the door, a screwdriver, the match, squirrel, American history, reading, her, taxi, ours, some friends. Any problem, the way. Example, we weren't aware of any problems until we started getting complaints from people who Example, we weren't aware of any problems until we started getting complaints from people who clearly weren't satisfied with the way their new computers were working. 1. He tried to remove the old broken handle of the door with a screwdriver. 2. I'm becoming more familiar with American history by reading about the Civil War. 3. We went out to dinner with some friends of ours. 4. Robertson celebrated his return to the Scottish team by scoring the best goal of the match against England yesterday. Robertson celebrated his return to the Scottish team by scoring the best goal of the match against England yesterday. 5. They don't allow dogs on the buses, so Betty always goes by taxi whenever she wants to take a dog with her. 6. I wanted to buy that lamp with the yellow lampshade, but I didn't have enough cash and they wouldn't let me pay for it with a check. I wanted to buy that lamp with the yellow lampshade. I wanted to buy that lamp with the yellow lampshade, but I didn't have enough cash and they wouldn't let me pay for it with a check. Page number 133. Prepositions used for exceptions. Except for. besides, without, etc. Except for, besides, apart from. We can use except or except for, not including, with someone or something not included in a general statement, usually after a quantifier such as every. 1. We usually use except for, not except, with information added to a specific statement that makes it not completely true. 2. 1. It's often every day except for Sunday. Everyone liked the film except me. Everyone liked the film except me. Not except I, but except me. Everyone liked the film except me. 2. She said she'd stopped smoking except for an occasional cigarette at a party. We can use except, not except for, before proposition phrases 3 and clauses 4. 3. I worked here all day except on Friday. It'll be sunny everywhere except in the north. It'll be sunny everywhere except in the north. 4. I've never heard their baby cry except when it gets tired. In negative sentences, we can use besides with the same meaning as except for. 5. In other sentences, besides usually means in addition to. 6. 5. I didn't know anyone in London besides or except for my Uncle Harry. I didn't know anyone in London besides or except for my Uncle Harry. 6. Besides football, what other sports do you like? I've talked to a lot of people besides Harry. We can use apart from instead of both, except for, not including, and besides, in addition to. 7. It's often every day apart from Sunday. Apart from football, what other sports do you like? Note that aside from is used like apart from, especially in American English. Note that aside from is used like apart from, especially in American English. Without and minus. We use except for with something not included in a general statement. We use without for something not included in the wider senses of not having, 8, or not doing something, 9. We can use minus when you want to emphasize that something has been removed, 10. 8. I prefer tea without milk, don't you? I prefer tea without milk, don't you? Romeo chose death rather than life without Juliet. 9. Bill changed his travel plans without any explanation. Then he left without saying goodbye. Bill changed his travel plans without any explanation. Then he left without saying goodbye. 10. They eventually published the report without or minus several important sections. 14. Using a dictionary if necessary, complete each sentence with a noun and a proposition. Bread, fruit, meal, pizza, fishy, ice cream, omelette, rice. Besides, except for, with, except, 2 times, minus, without, 2 times. 1. We don't usually eat much rice except when we have Indian food. 2. My grandfather liked to say that you can't make omelette without breaking eggs. 3. I first learned how to cook salmon, and now I cook a lot of other fish besides that. I first learned how to cook salmon, and now I cook a lot of other fish besides that. 4. They usually drink wine with their evening meal, except during Lent. 5. My children don't eat a lot of fruit except for bananas at breakfast sometimes. 6. Would you like some ice cream with your strawberries? 7. We won't be able to make bread without flour. 8. It was obvious that someone had already decided it was time to start eating, because on the table was our pizza minus 1 very large slice. Page number 134. Phrasal verbs. Words such as in or on, which are used as prepositions before noun phrases. 1. Can also be used as particles after verbs. 2. We can also use other words such as away, back, or out as particles. 3. These verb particle combinations, slip in, go out, are called two-word verbs or phrasal verbs. 1. I usually drink coffee in the morning. He said he left the keys on the table. 2. I slept in this morning and missed my bus. He put on his boots and overcoat. 3. I tried to catch the dog, but it ran away. When will she come back? Did you go out last night? When will she come back? Did you go out last night? Other phrasal verbs include fall over, get through, go ahead, sit down, stand up, take off. Some phrasal verbs are used without an object, for, and others are used with an object. When the object is a noun phrase, we can usually put it before, by, or after the particle. 6. When the object is a pronoun, we put it before the particle. 7. 4. It's time to get up. I wish these flies would go away. Watch out. Not watch out that, but watch out or watch out for that. 5. Don't turn on the light. You'll wake up the baby. He took off his shoes. 6. Don't turn the light on. Don't turn the light on. You'll wake the baby up. He took his shoes off. Don't turn the light on. You'll wake the baby up. He took his shoes off. 7. Don't turn it on. Don't turn it on. You'll wake him up. He took them off. Not he took off them, but he took them off, or he took off his shoes. After a phrasal verb, we can also use a gerund, 8, or a clause, 9. We don't usually put clauses or very long phrases between the verb and the particle. 8. Have you given up smoking? They told us to carry on working, not to carry on work, but to carry on working. They told us to carry on working. 9. Andy pointed out that we didn't have enough time. You should read over what you've written. Not you should read what you've written over, but you should read over what you've written. We can use phrasal verbs with prepositions. These combinations of verb, particle, preposition are sometimes called three-word verbs. We put pronouns after the prepositions. 10. This book is valuable and you should hold on to it. Not hold on it, but hold on to it. Not hold it on to. Not hold it on to, but hold on to it. Go ahead and I'll catch up with you later. Not I'll catch up you, but I'll catch up with you. Not I'll catch you up, but I'll catch up with you. Others include face up to, get round to, go along with, look forward to, watch out for. We often use phrasal verbs such as put off or leave out. We often use phrasal verbs such as put off or leave out in informal situations. 11. Rather than other verbs with similar meanings such as postpone or omit, which may sound more formal. 12. We often use phrasal verbs such as put off or leave out in informal situations. 11. Rather than other verbs with similar meanings such as postpone or omit, which may sound more formal. 12. 11. Let's put the meeting off till next week. Don't leave out the author's name. 12. We should postpone the meeting until next week. You must not omit the author's name. You must not omit the author's name. 15. Using a dictionary if necessary, rewrite these sentences in a more informal style, using appropriate forms of these phrasal verbs. Cut back on, do away with, fill in, find out, give up, go along with, go in, go up, send back, take off. 1. You should complete this form and return it with your payment. You have to fill in this form and send it back with your payment. 2. My father has abandoned his attempt to get the university to abolish tuition fees. My father has abandoned his attempt to get the university to abolish tuition fees. My dad has given up his attempt to get the university to do away with tuition fees. 3. It was necessary to reduce our spending after we discovered that our rent was increasing. It was necessary to reduce our spending after we discovered that our rent was increasing. We had to cut back on our spending after we found out that our rent was going up. 4. Please observe local customs at the temple and remove your shoes before entering. Please go along with local customs at the temple and take off your shoes before going in. Page number 135. 16. Complete this text with appropriate phrasal verbs using these verbs and particles. Bend, breathe, 2 times, go, lift, push, raise, stand, away, back, down, in, out, up, 3 times. When you have to spend a lot of time sitting at the desk, it is important to take short breaks and stretch your neck and back. You can use this exercise to help you stretch. Push away your chair to the side and stand up, making sure there is some space in front of you. Stand up straight, with your arms hanging loosely by your side. Breathe in deeply as you raise your arms up over your head. Pause a moment. Then breathe out slowly as you swing your arms forward, letting them fall as you bend your whole body down until your hands are near your feet. Pause a moment. Then breathe in as you lift your body up very slowly, beginning with your hips, then your upper body, followed by your head and arms. Repeat the exercise at least once before you go back to your desk again. 17. Choose A or B or both as appropriate sentences to use each time in creating this dialogue. A. What's the meaning of reimburse? 1. Raise. I don't know. Not let's look up it in the dictionary, but let's look it up in the dictionary. 2. A. Hand over the dictionary and I'll do it. Not hand it over the dictionary and I'll do it, but hand over the dictionary and I'll do it. 3. Raise. Not I left behind it at home this morning, but I left it behind at home this morning. 4. Not I think I put down beside my computer, but I think I put it down beside my computer. Okay, so we can't use your dictionary. What's the context? A. It says they reimbursed his tuition fees. 5. Raise. Maybe it means they worked out what his tuition was. Not maybe it means they worked what his tuition was out, but maybe it means they worked out what his tuition was. 6. A. But then it says he paid off some debts. Not but then it says he paid off some, but then it says he paid off some debts. 7. Maybe it means to pay back money to someone, or maybe it means to pay money back to someone. Maybe it means to pay money back to someone, or maybe it means to pay back money to someone. 8. A. Not so they gave back him the money for his tuition, but So they gave him back the money for his tuition. Right. Sounds good to me. Page number 136. Test. A. Choose the word or phrase that best completes each sentence. 1. I know I don't look like everyone else, but I don't like it when people stare at me. 2. Please don't call me until after 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. 3. I have been waiting here for you since 8:30. 4. The United Nations is drawing up an economic plan aimed at providing East Timor with a stronger economy based on coffee. The United Nations is drawing up an economic plan aimed at providing East Timor with a stronger economy based on coffee. The United Nations is drawing up an economic plan aimed at providing East Timor with a stronger economy based on coffee. 5. If you borrow something from someone, make sure you give it back to them. B. Identify the one underlined expression A, B, C, or D that must be changed in order to correct the sentence. Identify the one underlined expression A, B, C, or D that must be changed in order to correct the sentence. 1. According to a recent report, more students are choosing to work in part-time jobs instead of using their weekends to study during term time. 2. For a whole week, Lorette came to class every day with her hair a different color. For a whole week, Loretta came to class every day with her hair a different color. 3. Between 1850 and 1900, coal production in the U.S. rose from 14 million tons to 100 million. Between 1850 and 1900, coal production in the U.S. rose from 14 million tons to 100 million. 4. The ball went between the legs of another player, passed me towards the goal, and rolled over the goal line. 5. The children were laughing at a cartoon in which a cat on a wobbly ladder kept trying to get a small bird out of its cage. C. Choose one proposition from each pair for each space in the text. Choose one proposition from each pair for each space in the text. At or in, away or up, during or for, from or of or out of, to or towards. Does the new global economy simply mean that well-paid jobs will be taken away from people in rich countries and changed to low-paid jobs for people in poorer countries? Is this a bad thing? Perhaps. It may actually mean that some poor people who have been out of work for a long time can start to have a better life, and other people will have to work a bit harder to maintain their comfortable lifestyle. It may actually mean that some poor people who have been out of work for a long time can start to have a better life, and other people will have to work a bit harder to maintain their comfortable lifestyle. Page number 137. D. Complete each sentence in such a way that it is as similar as possible in meaning to the sentence above it. Complete each sentence in such a way that it is as similar as possible in meaning to the sentence above it. 1. This building will be closed for renovation from the beginning to the end of August. During August, this building will be closed for renovation. During August, this building will be closed for renovation. 2. What else did you do in addition to shopping when you were in Rome? Besides shopping, what else did you do when you were in Rome? 3. Haven't you eaten anything else today besides the apple I gave you earlier? Haven't you eaten anything else today besides the apple I gave you earlier? Apart from the apple I gave you earlier, haven't you eaten anything else today? 4. We won't be able to do much unless we get more financial support. Without more financial support, we won't be able to do much. E. Complete this text using these propositions: across, along, at, by, into, of, fast, towards, under, with. Whenever I see a newspaper lying on the ground beside the door, I think of Fred. A few years ago, Fred had to travel to a meeting and his flight was delayed for several hours because of bad weather. Fred had to travel to a meeting and his flight was delayed for several hours because of bad weather. By the time he got to his hotel, it was past midnight. Once in his room, he felt really tired, so he just undressed and got into bed. At some point during the night, he had to get up and go to the bathroom. He wasn't really awake, and it was very dark, but he could see a light under the bathroom door, so he walked towards the light. He opened the bathroom door and went in. The bright light blinded him for a moment. As the door closed behind him, he vaguely wondered why there was a doormat on the bathroom floor. Facing him was another door with a number on it. It was number 325. That was strange. Then he realized he wasn't in the bathroom. He was in the corridor. He turned to go back into his room, but the door was locked. And he was naked. He heard voices coming from the far end of the corridor. What was he going to do? Then he noticed a newspaper on the floor beside the door of number 325. He quickly grabbed the newspaper and held it in front of him as a man and a woman in dark uniforms came along the corridor towards him. He quickly grabbed the newspaper and held it in front of him as a man and a woman in dark uniform came along the corridor towards him. He quickly grabbed the newspaper and held it in front of him as a man and a woman in dark uniforms came along the corridor towards him. The man said, "Good morning, sir. Having a bit of trouble?" They were security guards. Fred explained his embarrassing situation, and they unlocked the door for him. He thanked them as if they had just saved his life. After they left, he opened his door, made sure it wouldn't close again, stepped across the corridor, and put the newspaper back on the floor outside number 325. Someone else might need that newspaper. Chapter 11, page